I actually recommend that. Like, stop worrying about what other people think about you, you know, like it's so freeing. And also, you do not have to qualify to do business with your client. They have to qualify to do business with you. Like, just to turn that table around. R&R, good job. So like, doesn't have the R&R on it, right? So what's that mean? Yeah, what? It's saying that they're not repaying you to remove it, they're just paying you to replace it. That's what they say. And then you ask them why they did that, and just what you say, they say, well, it's already included in the tear-off. Already included in the tear-off. It's not already included in the tear-off. I feel silly having to point this out, but I will show you. Dump fees, hauling, disposal, and labor to remove composition shingles and felt. So where does it say pipe jacks and drip edge and siding and carpet? You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy how everything's like a catch-all, that it's all included in the tear-off. But I'm willing to remove it from the estimate this time, as long as you're willing to revisit it when it's no longer hypothetical and it becomes an actual and where they're actually swinging hammers. Fair enough? Okay, great. Like, I say that like a robot. I've said it so many times, it just pins them right down, right? And the reason why is because how can they respond to that? I mean, like, listen, I was hired as the contractor to perform all repairs that are prescribed by this claim, okay? I think it's gonna take something different than what you're saying. Here's what I think it's gonna take, and I've already presented that to you. I've already given you the documentation and the proof and the evidence as to why that is, but you still don't see it. And that's okay. We can agree to disagree, because this is all just a fantasy right now. It's all just one big hypothetical. It's all just an estimate, right? It's gonna become an actual when we're there actually swinging hammers, and that's why I say the contractor has all the power. Okay, this is Xactimate, you know. We're gonna get into Xactimate for a second. So one more question, guys. Who all here, it's easier to ask it this way rather than to ask who uses Xactimate, who does not use Xactimate? Don't use Xactimate, and it's okay. Listen, I'm not gonna down that at all. I mean, so I think there's probably even more who don't use Xactimate. And that's quite all right, you know. So I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not arguing with anybody who has a problem with Xactimate, okay? But I use Xactimate, like I mentioned before. And so I want to show you a couple things in Xactimate, just as we're kind of going through some things. We already talked about one of those, which is the WTR category. So like if we go into that category, just type in WTR, you can start to see what I was talking about earlier, right? Like the remove wet ceiling tile, you know, bag for disposal, and then you can see the category 3. Also after hours, so any time 9 a.m. Monday through Friday is during business hours. After that is actually after business hour. I would not do an after hours unless you had to, but you know, and then there's also, tear out baseboard, detach and reset. There's also labor, right? So if you go into labor, then per hour, water extraction and remediation technician, cleaning technician, supervisor, during, you know, business hours and after hours. So I really encourage you to jump into mitigation. If you haven't explored mitigation, you know, start to explore it and maybe even become an expert. I encourage it. I think it's part of if you want to be a true insurance restoration contractor, I think it's important. So another thing here, we talked about a little bit of content, so I'll just bring up the CPS. And by the way, look at how many content-related categories there are. There's a ton, like content, clean appliances, garment and soft good cleaning, clean electrical items, general items, hard furniture, lamps or vases. I mean, literally everything is in here. But remember, the thing that most of us have heard, and that the only thing I knew about for several years, was only just the move out then reset. Small room, medium room, and large room. I think an extra large room. You don't have to use that. We have the moving van. Let's bring up this category here. So we've got packing paper, bubble wrap, box. We have medium size, small size, large size, extra large boxes. Provide book box, packing paper and tape. We have like dishes boxes and mirror boxes and mattress box and tape, king size, crib size, double size, queen size, single size. Are these things that we've been doing? I see a couple of, people are like, yeah, I do it, but most of us are not doing this. I missed the boat for a long time. So if you're not doing this, so I was making my client do all the work, and then I was packing, moving it out of the way and not getting paid to even do that. Just mind blowing what I was doing all that. Now, given what I know now. So I just wanted you to really be able to visualize that, right? Storage container, you can put a pod in their driveway, but you don't have to do that because you have the off-site storage and insurance climate control per month. That's what I would go with, right? I don't want my stuff sitting out in a pod out in the driveway, especially not in the summer, right? Moving van, and then of course the labor that's associated with this, right? Inventory, packing, boxing, and moving charge per hour, after hours. Evaluation, somebody's got to be a supervisor. You know what I mean? There's training for this, and you can go do that. But I just want to open your mind to it, okay? This is a major phase of the insurance restoration industry. So given those three phases that I talked about, I want you to kind of visualize in your mind, separating them, okay? And sometimes I do that on larger projects. Like, for example, I might have all of the mitigation stuff, all of the emergency services, or the demo, really. All the wet drywall, the wet stuff, everything that's got to be removed and or detached, like by itself in one estimate, right? Like just only the demo stuff, only the mitigation stuff, the cleaning by itself in one estimate. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm drawing a line, like in my mind, between the R and the R, the remove and the replace, or the detach and the reset, right? So that everything that I'm removing and demoing and cleaning is on its own estimate by itself. But larger projects, that's what I'm going to do. And so I'm going to bring that first to the insurance company, get that approved first, sort of lock them in, and then it's like, okay, you ready for my contents estimate? And they're usually like, what contents estimate? I love when they do that. Yeah, well, here we go. Here's your content. Good question. Here it is. So I bring in the contents estimate for them, and then get them to sort of lock them in on that and have them approve that contents estimate. And then we can start doing the reconstruction, the build back, the put back, right? Which, by the way, if you lock them in on the mitigation, the demo, anything that they approve that they're going to remove, aren't they going to approve to replace it now? So it's kind of strategic in that way. But so thinking of these things, these three phases. So like again, do I do that on the water spot? No, I don't go all crazy on the water spot. I'll give them some grace on that one, right? But I just wanted you to be able to visualize this stuff, okay? Now, we'll come back to some of this Xactimate stuff later, but right now, I want to go through this insurance estimate. So I'm gonna bring up sort of a case study, and I've been using this one in a lot of these events because it has such good value in what it's covering. First, I want to tell you that this is from that Hurricane Michael that I was talking about in Panama City, and I mostly do consulting training now these days. I sold that estimate writing company. I sold my construction company back in the day. And why I did that, just a little bit about me, because I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about myself, but I do want you to know me. I want you to know who I am and what this is kind of based on and what my experience really is. And I mentioned I started in a sales job. It was a roofing sales job in Ohio, hailstorm. I didn't have any idea what I was doing. Because there was no eagle view back then, guys. So we had to get up and draw out the roof and measure everything. I found that very, very complicated because I didn't know what a ridge was. I didn't know what an eave or a rake or drip edge or perimeter of the roof. All of these things were just so complicated for me. They're easy now, but back then I just didn't have, I had the landscaping background, and the only thing really construction related that I had was maybe paver patios, decks. I've talked about that earlier. Retaining walls. I had to learn how to do that stuff. But I was not very construction inclined. Like my dad could build a house with his hands, but he wasn't pleasant to be around when he was doing those projects. He'd get kind of frustrated. He's gotten calmer in his older years. He's worked on that. We all do that. But anyway, he's a little, he'd get agitated. So I didn't find that I wanted to be around it when he was doing construction jobs and an add-on at our house. I remember he added on and finished basement. He did that, and he would work on cars, and that's another thing I didn't learn how to do. Because he'd get agitated doing that. Then looking back, I was like, where I ended up, I really wish that I spent more time with my dad doing those things. He's a super smart guy. Way smarter than me when it comes to, like, he could do he's more of an engineered, analytical guy. He does drafting and everything. I asked him to help me figure out how to build a retaining wall with the landscaping, and he sat down and drew this like CAD design. He's really great. But I didn't have a lot of background. I found that complicated, and so I was struggling with it, in and out. And then those hurricanes, I got thrust down in that as like sink or swim. I found a way to swim. I ended up working for multiple companies that, first company I worked for didn't even have their licensing straight. Like, they were coming from Kansas City, and they told me it was all going to be great. It wasn't. They didn't even have contracts. It was terrible. But I worked for other companies, learned a ton, and eventually started my own company, got some partners and things down in Florida. And then Hurricane Wilma came in 2005. Those storms I mentioned were in 04, and then 05, Hurricane Wilma struck South Florida. So like Miami-Dade, Palm Beach County, and Broward in between the two, just major projects. It was like, my average size contract was about, just residential, was about $80,000, to give you an idea. Like a tile roof, lots of water damage all throughout, a home, screen enclosure, lots of exterior things, right? This was average size about 80,000 and beyond. Some of them much more extensive, but I quickly was introduced to the mitigation side of things, right? And all different aspects of interior and exterior. At the time, we thought after that storm and that was around Katrina. Many have heard of that one, and that actually hit Miami before it went over to New Orleans, just before Wilma. But we all thought in Florida at that time that there was going to be hurricanes happening every year, and like multiple. Like, there was different types of companies, like hurricane shutter companies and things like that, where they set up business based on the idea that there was for sure going to be hurricanes every year in Florida from then on. There was not another major hurricane, really. I mean, there's some to really hit of any significance for 12 years. So that was a bad business plan of mine. I was not working on water damage, fire damage, and all of the other aspects of insurance, wind damage, hail damage. There is actually hail in Florida. I could have been doing so many other things, but instead I gravitated towards, I'll just do retail. I'll do retail and like cash jobs that aren't insurance related while it's slow until we get a hurricane, not knowing there wasn't going to be one. But in 2008, I remember where that plan was not working. That was the real estate crash, for any of you who remember that, the real estate mortgage crisis. I mean, it was devastating, right? So here I am doing retail construction. I mean, that just came to a stop, and I'm out there just like dying on a vine in Florida. Like, I don't know what to do with my life. I'm sort of helping my cousin with this. He's a mortgage broker. I'm helping him do something different, struggling, not being able to pay my bills. And then Hurricane Ike hit Texas. I was like, there's a hurricane. There's a good one, right? I'm gonna go to that one. I was a hurricane guy, right? I had it all messed up. So I went to Texas. I went to it's like Houston, Galveston area. I'd never been there either. Fourth largest city, Houston, but it was a good sized storm, and I did really well there on that. And I started a new company in Texas, and then eventually moved to Dallas. And my wife and we moved from Orlando, where we'd been at the time, settled in Dallas, and I started doing finally water damage and fire damage. Started using my head, like setting myself up so that it did not depend on Mother Nature, right? So I learned a lot with that, and then started getting more into commercial. So, before I knew it, I'm doing apartment complex fire damage jobs, for example, like handling all the different phases. Except for the contents, I gotta say, because I didn't get that one. Yeah, embarrassed by that. But anyway, so I was, doing really well with that, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. I was 100 pounds heavier than I am right now. I used to say I was twice the size. I might have been a little bigger than that than I am right now. But I had like high blood pressure and different health problems. 2009, my daughter was born, which I never get to say this, but that's my beautiful daughter right sitting back there next to my sister who got to come with me. So no pressure, Leah. That is Leah. That is my beautiful daughter who just turned 13. That is my whole entire world right there, guys. That is why I do everything that I do. That is the center of my heart. I'm wrapped around her little finger, no doubt about it. She has got me, But I honestly, when she was born, I would, at the time, I tell her this, that I would look at her, and she'd be so full of life and happy. And at times I would get choked up and I'd get teary-eyed. I didn't know where it was coming from. And I realized I didn't believe that I was going to be here when she's this age. I didn't believe that. I thought that I was running out of life. It was kind of heading that way. And I needed to make some changes. I really did. And I did. I decided that this doing all the aspects of this company and being at the top of this thing was not for me. Some of you may realize that one day. It was just not me. I realized that the thing that I had the passion for, that I loved more than anything, was the inspections, the estimates, and the insurance game, right? That part of it. But when it comes to the production side, I was good at it, don't get me wrong, but man, that's the part that I think was just causing me too much internal stress, and it was just beating me up, and it was killing me literally. Because I didn't like it. I didn't like that aspect of it. I was just a constant struggle. So I decided to get out of it. I decided to sell the company, and that's when I moved and started the estimate writing company that I told you guys about. And I was first. There's hundreds of those people now. But I was the first website that you could submit your stuff to and your photos, and I would turn you back an Xactimate estimate. So I thought that was a good service. It was a good service. It was hot. It was in demand. But then I realized that it was kind of a bad service because it relied on like you could write an estimate for whatever, but how's it going to get approved? People were always like, how can I get this approved? Can you help me with the adjuster? Can you help me with And so we did end up starting that service as well. We called it invoice management, where we would set up sort of a back office email account, phone number for the contractor, and we just make all the contact with the adjuster. The flaw with that was I couldn't get the right kind of documentation from those contractors. They would not give me the proof that I needed to get these estimates approved. I also realized I was a really bad estimate writer. I thought I was great, but times change, trends change. And to remain relevant, you got to continue dealing with these insurance adjusters in the trenches as a practitioner. And I wasn't doing that. I was just writing the estimate, and I wasn't following up with the adjuster. So when we added that was like a wake-up call, and I really improved my service. It really improved my skill level because it got really big. I had a bunch of people working, and I'd have like sometimes 100 projects being submitted every day. So I'm looking and reviewing all these insurance estimates all the time, looking at these different insurance estimates all over the country. Great experience, right? Had a guy that one of my clients, he needed to do, where are we at on time? Good. He wanted me, he had a sales crew, and he wanted me to do a video to show, because I'd been on his case about not getting me the right photos. He wanted me to do a video to show how to do a proper inspection. And I had just moved in to my house at the time that was still vacant. Like it just got there, and there's hail damage all over it. So it was perfect. So I went and took my phone, I go around and I'm kind of showing them where to take photos from, how to do, identify the damage, how to take photos and prove the damage, right? And I'm going around the house. And after I'm done with the first one, I realized that doing it this way is no good. You got to do it this way. Like when I was doing the video for him. But I tried to send it to him. I didn't know how to send it. I didn't know anything about video at the time. And I couldn't email it to him. And so I put it on YouTube and shared it with him. And that's how I started my YouTube channel. Literally, that's how I started. It was like 6-7 years ago. That video is still on there. And then I go back around again. And I realized it was better this way. And then just walked around my house and kind of did that. But something happened with that because all these other people were like, well, how do you do this? And how do you do that? I was like, huh? I was stunned at how much of a vacuum there was, like people that really just needed basic information. So I started doing content for that YouTube channel and just started. That took off on the training aspect, the consulting side of what I do. And then I started the online training course, the IEScertified.com, about 4.5 years ago. That took off too. I think I have 1,700 students in there today. Like, it's pretty, that's good for little old me. I go to these events, and you see so I do a lot of these live training events, and I do consulting. So that's basically, I have a consulting service that I do where, contractors are out in the field dealing with a specific problem with an adjuster, and they want to know kind of top line strategy, how to do that. How to put together that estimate. When should I send it? What should I take a look at my estimate? What do you think of it? I might tell them to add some things or take some things off. I might review some insurance estimate. So that's really what I do now in this. Okay, so that brings me to the forward. I don't really like talking about myself a ton, but I want to get that out of the way because I want you to know what the experience level is based on, right? Where that 23 years is made up. Okay, so based on that, I was actually I used to do on-site inspections also as part of my service. I sold the estimate writing company eventually, and that invoice management. I sold it about 5 years ago. I sold that, and then I continued doing that kind of service, but just alone. Like, I wanted to work on much bigger projects, and I wanted to go out and physically do the boots on the ground, right? And so that's what I haven't been doing that as much now. It's mostly just the consulting, and I do deal. Yes, sir.
That's what I was going to ask. You touched on it a little bit. Why aren't you in Florida right now, taking advantage of that hurricane?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I wasn't going to bring this up. I did at my Chicago event because I was fresh off of it. But yeah, man. Well, I was sued for divorce and in an open court at the same time that hurricane hit. Like, by surprise, there's, that's what happened. I talked about it in Chicago because I barely made it, I went through my own hurricane through that period of time, and I'm out on the other side of it now. But yeah, man, 21 years married, so I didn't go. I don't think so. I don't think I would have headed off like right away. I probably would have been down there a couple weeks after the fact, right? I used to go down and even stage for them. But it's just like, I've gotten older because when you go down there and stage, it's like there's no power, no water, no place to stay, and nobody has any money yet anyway, So I've learned to kind of just let the dust settle, try to, see. But there is value in getting down there first, but I'm not in what I do now. I'm more coming in after the fact. But it's funny you brought that up. I wasn't going to bring that up today, guys, but I'm so like authentic to a fault. I don't care what anybody thinks about me negatively. I'm just truly honest and open about everything. I don't care if you had a camera on me and I woke up in the morning and you saw me like I was. I don't care about that. You know what I mean? I actually recommend that. Like, stop worrying about what other people think about you. Like, it's so freeing. And also, you do not have to qualify to do business with your client. They have to qualify to do business with you. Like, just to turn that table around. You know what I mean? So, all right, back to Panama City. My client was a general contractor in Panama, a Florida general contractor, hired me to come out and do the estimate and the inspection, the estimate, and to deal with the adjusters. So that's the context of this job. USAA, tons of hardy board siding, roof damage. Now, the roof had already been completed by another contractor. So that wasn't my client's, the contractor that I'm working for. He's not doing the roof. He's got to do everything else, okay? But so as we look through this, just realize the roof was done by another contractor. USAA came up with 31,667, right? And I think a little bit more for other structures right here. Other structures, coverage B, right, 4935. And I want to show you guys a couple things. We're going to go through it kind of quickly. Okay, front elevation, they have like fiber lap cement siding, or fiber cement lap siding, like 8.5 square feet. And I'll tell you, all the siding need completely removed and replaced. It was demolished, but they've got, a little repair, a little bit here, a little bit there, right? All right, a little bit of gutter downspout, a little bit of fascia, a little bit of shingle type panels, 64 square feet. And then we're going to pressure clean the whole front elevation. We're going to paint the whole thing. Exterior door, wrapped wood door, garage door frame and trim with aluminum. And then the right elevation, more of the same, right? 60 feet of the fiber cement lap siding, 32 square feet of sheathing, house wrap, clean with pressure chemical spray, exterior paint, right? The rear elevation, fascia, clean and paint. And then left elevation, more of the same. Go use this a little bit. All right. House wrap, fiber cement, soft fit, clean and paint, right? Now we get into the roof. And again, the roof is being done by somebody else, but I do want to bring up a couple things since we are looking at this roof. Couple things that I noticed, like we have removed laminated shingles, replace with waste, right? R&R drip edge, 389, additional charge, remove 2-story charge, right? 11 squares, replace 11 squares. That should be with waste, right? It doesn't have it in there. Roofing felt, there's a felt requirement in Florida. Flashing pipe jack lead, 2 of those. R&R exhaust cap, 1 of those. Remove steep roof, replace steep roof, should be with waste. Ridge cap, continuous ridge vent. I think there's re-nail the decking, which is something that's required in Florida. Anyone fast, tell me what's wrong with number 26? R&R. Good job. So like, doesn't have the R&R on it, right? So what's that mean? Yeah, what?
Most adjusters, when you ask that question, say when you're removing the shingles, you're taking it off anyway. So
Yeah.
you don't pay for removal.
So you just took away my next question, which is what do they say when you point it out, right? Yeah. No, good point, right? You're exactly right. So it's missing the R&R, right? So it's saying that they're not repaying you to remove it, they're just paying you to replace it. That's what they say. And then you ask them why they did that, and just what you say, they say, well, it's already included in the tear-off. Already included in the tear-off. It's not already included in the tear-off. I feel silly having to point this out, but I will show you that if we go back into and this Xactimate that I have open here, if I do have it open, it's right here. Oh, here it is. I blew up my screen. Okay, so this is I think Frederick, Maryland is the price list that I downloaded, right? Let's just go to this item, let's do remove shingles. Okay. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Item image, tags, unit price, amounts, depreciation, right? So this right here is the item image. If you click on that, if you didn't already know, this is the description that Xactware has for that item, okay? Dump fees, hauling, disposal, and labor to remove composition shingles and felt. So where does it say pipe jacks and drip edge and siding and carpet? You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy how everything's like a catch-all, that it's all included in the tear-off. I mean, I'll give you that nails are kind of unspoken. The nails are included in there. But it says shingles and felt, guys. It does not say pipe jacks, right? Now, I can bring that up to the adjuster, and they're going to say, can't pay for it. Yeah. Oh, good point. I didn't know that. Oh, yeah, you still can't pay for it. That's what they'll say, right? So then what do you do from there, But I mean, like, I wouldn't have to even say that in this particular case, right? Because, I mean, if we go back and look at what we're talking about here, we have, look at the next one. Look at 27. Look at 27. Exhaust cap through roof. I mean, it's got the R&R on there, right? So what are they talking about? You just see that this is an adjuster that was going too fast. You see, like they didn't put it on there. But you might see, like, it's got the pipe jack, so it's on there. It's not on there, right? It's just part of it's on there. I'll get that back bigger for you guys here.
So Chad,
Yeah, go for it.
in that instance, when you have a disagreement with the adjuster, what is your SOP for that? How do you address that after the fact? Because I'll tell you what we do. We just say, look, we're at an impasse here, as professionally as possible, and then we just say, why don't we do this? We're going to take a break, because it's usually before the job. We say we can do one of two things. We can tarp it and wait and work through the process, or we can address it now with a supervisor or whatever. We're happy to do whatever you want to do. Just let me know. If it's on the job, we call them and we tell them, look.
So great question. My version is, and he asked, what do you do when the adjuster doesn't agree with that, right? And you're at an impasse, right? Well, I'll get to that because I do have an SOP, like you said. No, it's okay. But I essentially, because I'm going to tell you now because I don't want to dodge the question, but it'll make more sense later. What I'm saying is, well, listen, I think it's going to take this, that, and the other, which is different than what you're saying. And forget about this and this example. It could be anything, right? It could be anything. So I disagree with the way you're saying that it's going to need to be, because I do this all the time, and I think that it's going to take this, this, and this. Of course, I'm assuming that if I'm at that impasse, I've already given them all the documentation, building codes, photos, but they're still, no matter what, nope, we're not going to pay for it. We're not going to pay for it, right? Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Well, I'm willing to go ahead and remove that item from the estimate at this time, as long as you're willing to revisit this issue when it's no longer a hypothetical and it becomes an actual and where they're actually swinging hammers. And I know that I'm going to have to bring you justification documentation at that time, but I'm willing to remove it from the estimate this time as long as you're willing to revisit it when it's no longer hypothetical and it becomes an actual and where they're actually swinging hammers. Fair enough? Okay, great. Like I say that like a robot. Yeah. I mean, I've said it so many times, it just pins them right down, right? And the reason why is because how can they respond to that? I mean, like, listen, I was hired as the contractor to perform all repairs that are prescribed by this claim, okay? I think it's going to take something different than what you're saying. Here's what I think it's going to take, and I've already presented that to you. I've already given you the documentation and the proof and the evidence as to why that is, but you still don't see it. And that's okay. We can agree to disagree because this is all just a fantasy right now. It's all just one big hypothetical. It's all just an estimate, right? It's going to become an actual when we're there actually swinging hammers. And that's why I say the contractor has all the power. Because now we have to prove that these things are necessary. Who's in better position to prove it? The one that's there doing the job. There's no appraiser that's going to be there. There's no public adjuster that's going to be there. There's no attorney, sorry guys, that's going to be there. You know what I mean? There's not going to be any adjusters there. But the contractor is. It's your job site. So as far as how can you prove it during the build, that then becomes issue number one. But look, this is great because we've identified which items that they're even going to have a problem with before we started, didn't we? So like if we went and built and just built it and then gave them the estimate, we're not going to really know which items they're going to have a problem with, right? That could be all of them because we went and built it. But we're not going to know which ones they're going to have a problem with. Going through this reconciliation process with our differences with the adjuster before the build, hashing these things out, going all in, really making our case for it, you're not going to get everything approved. You'll get a lot of additional things approved, right? But the items they didn't agree to approve, now we don't just give those up ever. We just take those and isolate them and put them over here and put a spotlight on them when we build. We know. The adjuster doesn't think we need to do these items right here, guys. They don't think we do. So how can we prove it during the build? Does that make sense? I'm telling you, that's what I mean by going with the grain, instead of always working against them. Because if we get ourselves to the point with the adjuster before the build where we're arguing with them and we're all locked up on things with them, then it's just not going to, I mean, listen, there may be a lot of things it's typically there are items in the estimate that you're not agreeing with, okay? And that causes there to be disagreement with the adjuster that essentially literally blocks all the things that there's not a disagreement about. Meaning they agree to pay you all this extra money, but they don't agree to give you this. And so you're like, oh, screw that, you know what I mean? Like you're all mad with the adjuster, and you can't even get them to release the money for the items that they did approve. That's why I say, no. Like, go ahead, send the money. We're not agreeing to anything, but we do agree that we have to do at least these items that are on this estimate, so go ahead and send it, and we'll move forward, and we'll proceed with the repairs. We're proceeding with the repairs. And why is that? Because I was the contractor who was hired to perform all repairs by this claim, by you, okay? You write the instruction list, Mr. Adjuster, I carry it out. See how good we work together? We're not fighters. We don't fight against each other. We're teammates. You see what I mean? Believe me, I keep that tone too. I actually don't go out there and be disrespectful to them. I'm very, like people think, oh, you go out there and wrestle with them. No, I don't. Like I just do whatever comes to me, and then I respond, right? All right, now so let's keep going down this estimate real quick. Okay, so yeah, the renailing of the roof. Okay, other structures. So the wood fence, 5 to 6 high, treated, ornamental iron fence. Now you guys will probably see like clean and stain, right? From a hail damage deal more than you would that. But I don't know, wind damage, I mean, you're gonna see a lot of that too. So one thing I want to point out about this, what's significant about that right there? Non-recoverable, right? It's non-recoverable. Non-recoverable. So for some, this is basic. And if it is basic to you, if anything I say is basic, please keep an open mind and just think of maybe this is a different way that you might be able to learn how to explain it to a client or to a new person within your company. So don't just think, oh, I already know all this. This is basic. He's talking about depreciation now. You know, hang with me, okay? I'm gonna give you a couple nuggets with it though. So like some of you are like, I already knew that. But how did you know that that means that that's non-recoverable?
Because recoverable is in
parentheses, right? Help you out. And this is brackets, right? So it's because of the brackets around it, right? That's an indicator that it's an ACV only item. So they're paying actual cash value, not replacement cost value. This is non-recoverable, okay? There is no recoverable depreciation. That amount is not coming back. So it's like another deductible, right? It's like having another deductible, meaning the client's got to come up with that portion right there, in addition to the deductible. So if they want you to do the fence, okay, like the insurance company's going to give them that much, and the client's got to give you that much because that's the price to do the fence, right? I mean, so Mr. and Mrs. Jones, do you want us to do the fence? You know what I mean? Like a lot of times they won't want, once they find that out, they won't want you to do that. But guys, what I'm trying to get at is if you miss that, it's going to be bad for you. Because if they do want you to do the fence, they're thinking you're doing all the repairs, right? And you go out, you do the fence, you didn't even know that that's non-recoverable, nor did the client, I guarantee you, the client did not understand that. They may have, but there's a chance they did not understand that. So they're giving you all the insurance payments, they've paid you the deductible, it comes down to the end, and they're missing, like they're short by $1,798.89. And that's what you're billing them for. And they're like, where's my other $1,700? And so far we've gotten along good. Don't let this screw it up. You know what I mean? And that's the one thing that comes out at the end. And the client's like, I don't understand. I've given you all the insurance payments. I paid you the deductible. There's no more money left. And they've done an accounting, you know, and they see that, and they kind of explained, I made you this payment. This is all I got. And everybody's perplexed. Maybe you call the insurance company like you shorted us by $1,798. And they probably still will not understand what you're even talking about. You know what I mean? But maybe some adjuster's like, oh, I get it. How much are you short? I see. That's the non-recoverable depreciation on the fence. You see? So you're not getting that money. And, you know, then you go to your client like, oh, okay, well, this is how it works. Turns out this is your portion to pay. This is way late in the game, you know. This is something they should have known ahead of time, before. And so if you don't know that, I promise, if you try to go get that from them, that's going to be a bad look. Like they're not going to want to pay it. So what's probably going to end up happening is you're going to take the hit for $1,798. You gave them the work, and you're just going to take the hit, right? You probably should do that because you should be more prepared to let them know in the beginning, which is the solution, is to let them know about this in the beginning, right? Because if you know about it, then all you have to do is say, hey, listen, because that's your portion, do you want us to do the fence? Okay? Now, question right here before I go forward.
It's written on the first couple pages, non-recoverable.
Well, it could be.
On this one it was.
Okay, good. But I'm saying like a general rule of thumb, like I never depend on that stuff. Never want to depend on that. So it may be in the paperwork, maybe not. Like sometimes this will be an actual parentheses and it's incorrect. And they tell you later, you know what I mean? So I do, to that note, how do you know, right? Because we don't get involved with policy coverage. But I did say, except to verify coverage, right? I would send out an email in the very beginning, like have your client send out an email if you can. You know, not everybody you're gonna maybe get to do this, but there's a number of documents you have them sign in the beginning of a project, right? Like to make it official, sign the contract paperwork, maybe some other things. One step I would add to that, like the standard, you know, thing that I do every time, is that I would have them send an email to their agent. If they have an agent that they have that kind of, might be some 800 number, and this won't work every time, but I would have them send an email to their agent and copy you to the email. Okay, and this is a great way of starting to establish relationships with insurance agents, guys, which is very difficult to do, but it can be revolutionary for your business. Because how many people are going to repeat business with you on an insurance claim? Well, if they have another insurance claim, if you did good, but what if they never have another insurance claim? But an agent can continue to repeat referring you business, okay? And there's a lot of ways to get agents, but I'm telling you, it's competitive. So everybody else is trying to do it too. Help the agent get new business. That's right to the top. There's a guy named Matthew Danskin. I don't ever recommend people that often because I don't want, but this guy I have to. Because there's not many other people that do it. This guy named Matthew Danskin, look him up. It's a restoration referral system is what he has. But it's all about, his whole thing, he has like a boot camp, all about agents. And he probably wouldn't like me for telling you this, but I went to breakfast with him after my Nashville event, and he told me there's like 7 reasons why agents will give you the business, but number 1 kind of blew me away, which was help them get new business. So I kind of skipped right through his whole pitch and told you the answer. Go to number 1, help them get new business, right? So he wouldn't want that. But look him up. He's a great, I believe in him wholly. Matthew Danskin, Restoration Referral System. All right, so with agents though, like this, the client sends out an email, copies you on it, and says, "I've just hired Chad with ABC Construction to handle my hail damage claim," right? And there's a couple things that we kind of need to know that he needs to know so that he can better, work on my project. Number 1, I'm assuming that I have a replacement cost value policy, because that's the other thing you need to know. So like if you get screwed on something like this right here, that's a big deal, right? But I had a bed and breakfast that I worked on in Florida where I replaced all this framing and decking and flooring and just walls all throughout the place. And I found out that the entire policy was an ACV policy. It was ACV. And it was a historic building, so it was like 50% depreciated. So, I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's how I learned that lesson. Like, I almost didn't make it through that, So I hope that if you do learn your lesson, it's more something like this than something like that, right? But, all right, so the agent, right? We need to know, is it an RCV policy? You would just assume that it is. Maybe you can look at should say it right on the claim. But just, again, I don't want to rely on that stuff. I want to make sure it's coming from the source, So I'm assuming that I have a replacement cost value policy. If not, can you please explain? And also, are there any other is there any other areas of my policy that are not recoverable, right? So like, is there any ACV area? Can you please explain? And that should prompt the agent to say, yeah, you have an RCV policy, but your other structures, like fencing and playgrounds and sheds that are detached garages, those are all, and this is not always this way, guys, but it kind of usually is. Those are all non-recoverable. Those are all ACV, right? Ma'am, you have your coverage C, they may say, personal property contents, right? Think of that, like patio furniture, all the furniture inside your house, but for me, I'm usually thinking about the outside, hot tub cover, do these things have hail damage, guys? I'm looking for that too. But that's typically ACV also, right? Now, and then one other thing is, another question is, I'm assuming that I have ordinance and law coverage, OL coverage. Remember the building codes? And if not, please explain. And if I do, are there any exceptions, limitations, and or exclusions to that, right? Like that should have them tell you, yes, you have building code coverage, OL coverage, up to 50,000. You know what I mean? Like on commercial ones, you gotta watch out. You think they have it, they verify that they have it, and it's $5,000 worth of items. Not gonna get you very far, but I wanna know those things, right? So, what time is it? Okay, we're doing good. All right, now, this is not actually a problem. This is why I spend so much time with this, because I think it's a valued proposition. It's not actually a problem. I look at it as an opportunity, because look, they're getting a check for this. What if they don't want to do the work? Like now, this $1,300 can be used for anything they want. They can go spend it on whatever they want, okay? So like, let me ask you a question, guys. If somebody has a damaged roof and the insurance company goes out and pays, let's say it's a $20,000 roof, okay? And they depreciate $5,000, or let's say there's a $1,000 deductible, probably more than that, right? But it's 19, and then they depreciate, let's say $9,000, and they give them a check for $10,000, right? Now, let's say the client decides, you know what? I'm not going to spend that on my roof. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing the roof. I'm going to go on vacation, or I'm going to pay off my Amex card, whatever the reason, they decide they're not going to do it, and they put the money in their bank and they spend it up. Is that insurance fraud? No. Heard some yeses. Usually it's about 50 people like, yes, that's insurance fraud. And no, you're right. It's not insurance fraud. That's not. Because that's ACV money. They can spend it however they want, right? It's just like an auto claim. If you have ACV and you total out your car, they cut you a check for the depreciated value of the car that's left. But you don't have to go buy a new car, right? You can spend that money on however you want. So now it's not a good idea to do that, guys. Not a good idea to do that with a roof. You're going to get in some trouble with the insurance company. They may drop you. They may not pay for future damages. Like, what if you had a roof claim in addition and with all the wet stuff on the inside and they just turn it all down? They should, by the way. What if then there's a mortgage company. What if the insurance company names the mortgage company? It's not as easy as it sounds. And we're usually thankful for that, right? Because we don't want our clients going off and spending all the money. We want them to use the money to do the job, right? So, but when it comes to that ACV money, are they allowed to do it? And a roof, not a good idea. But on something like this, no big deal, right? The client, maybe Mr. Jones or Mrs. Jones can do that themselves later on down the road. Doesn't matter, right? What if they did, you can see like you do the inspection and they did all their own painting and remodeling and things. Why wouldn't they want to do their own painting again? You know what I mean? So it could be painting. It could be a number of different items, right? But my point is, it doesn't just have to be an ACV only item. It could be any item. It could be any item that they don't want to do. It's not insurance fraud. Where the fraud comes in, right, is that it always comes down to lying to an insurance company. I'm telling you, that's where it always comes down to. Because like, think of the deductible. You can't waive a deductible. You can't waive a deductible. So for all of you who waive deductibles, you can't even do what you're doing. And I realize it's very competitive and there's a lot of people that do this. I won't ask anybody to raise their hands. You're not going to tell the truth anyway if you don't do it. But anyway, so you can't waive deductible. And what do I mean by that? Well, that $20,000 scenario, $1,000 is a deductible. They're not going to pay you, 20. They're going to pay you 19, right? So they're going to subtract the 1,000 and they're going to give you 19,000. Now, they're also typically, again, going to hold back a lot of depreciation. So let's say they held back 9 and they only give you a check for 10, okay? Now, for you to waive that deductible, then when they want the final invoice, when you go back to get the depreciation, then you would say 20,000 and on your bill it would say minus 1,000 where we waived their deductible, right? So we only charged them 19. Insurance company's going to see that and they're going to say, okay, great. Now we only owe them 18,000, right? Because they're still going to take off. You have to pay the first 1,000. That's how that works, right? So I would submit to you. When I was I didn't take jobs, and I learned to get to this point. I never take jobs without fully executed contract paperwork and a payment of some sort. Like if they had no money left or yet from the insurance company, then I wanted the deductible, or at least a portion of it, to make it official, right? So I do believe it's important to get the deductible in the beginning. It's supposed to be the first, right? So like where the lying, the fraud comes in is that the contractor does not put that we waived the 1,000. They just lie and say we charged them the 20,000. That's a felony in any state right there. And if the homeowner goes along with that willingly and knowingly, they should be charged too. They're probably not going to get charged. Probably nobody's going to get charged. It's just they're cracking down on this in certain areas, but it's really kind of stunning how wide open it is. It's just rampant. But it's always lying to the insurance company like that. You're misrepresenting something to them, right? So, but if I know about this, now I can use this amount right here, not for them. I'm not suggesting that they pay off credit card debt. This right here can be used for the deductible, guys. Okay? So like in that scenario, say they had a $4,000 deductible, and they know they have to pay $4,000 of their own money for the deductible. Now, I think that sucks, but it's part of life, you know, and maybe they knew about that and they planned for it, but I would like to help them raise that money if I can. That's the way I look at it. It's like I call it creative financing. You know, I think I have a better job of getting the job and to begin with if I can come up with a way to raise that money. So if there's $4,000 worth of deductible, right here I've just found $1,307. Like if they don't want to do that fence, they're already in a bad position anyway, or maybe do it later, they could use that $1,307 right now for the deductible. So I had a guy one time, I was meeting with an adjuster, with the homeowner was there several years ago, and he had a hot tub cover and some patio furniture that was there. Barbecue grill's a good one in hailstorms. Like, because it just takes one ding and they'll buy a whole new barbecue grill. Depreciated, right, the ACV value only, but that guy's not gonna buy a new barbecue grill because of that one little ding, nor does he have to. He doesn't have to go buy a new grill. So they can literally use that money right there in its own column and shift it over to the duct. But I had that happen. The guy had a grill, patio furniture, hot tub cover, and it came out, you know, a couple grand, $3,000 or whatever. And the guy literally, the adjuster was writing checks to him, handwriting checks for his coverage A, the dwelling, his coverage B, the other structures, the second check, and the third check was much smaller for that personal property, the depreciated amount. And he looked at it and he goes, well, Chad, you can just take this third check, I'll just sign it right over to you, and you can use that for the deductible. And like right in front of the adjuster, and we all kind of agreed, that's a good idea. You know what I mean? So I'm always, when I do my inspection, I'm always gonna check for that. I'm gonna check for patio furniture, all that stuff. That's a way to do it. So that if you identify it earlier, it's not necessarily a problem, it's an opportunity, right? So we go down, debris removal, labor minimums. Okay, we're doing good. And we come up with a total of 36,602. Remember that included the roof. All right. Now, how I dealt with this is I first, did a very, very detailed inspection. Okay. And again, CSI crime scene. I want to see every single inch. I want to inspect every room, closet, and hallway of this building. Every single part of it. Every inch of every elevation on the outside, right? I need to be able to determine what it is. So what I want to do too, I may have differences from their estimate, but it's usually very, very, very far apart. And because it's so far apart, and that's because I'm finding a lot of new damage that they didn't even see, right? Because it's so far apart, and because there's new damage, they're almost always going to definitely send another adjuster, like almost every time, because it's so far apart. Meaning they're not going to usually approve it from the desk because we have so many differences. And if there's damage that no adjuster has seen and taken photos of, that's usually, not all the time, but almost all the time, going to trigger another adjuster having to come out, right? To have to lay their eyes on it, get those photos from an adjuster. I know that. So for that reason, I really don't want them to see my estimate yet. I don't want to show my cards yet, right? So another way to, like if you've already determined they're definitely going to send an adjuster, let's get that on quicker rather than later. Let's not add any more days to that process, right? So I'd send them a photo report. That's what this is. It looks like an Xactimate estimate. I've got an opening statement on it. But you can do for your Xactimate, you can use, when you export it, your estimate, just do the cover page and the images. So I really just need to show them the photos. A lot of times that can trigger them just going ahead and sending that adjuster. See, now they're sending the adjuster. I never had to show my cards, right? All right, now this right here, I'm just gonna go quickly because we have lunch coming up, but I want you to see kind of the damage that was represented in that estimate. This is different types of hardy board siding. You can see, it's not, I think the adjuster was just focusing on the missing siding, but all this is you'll start to see is ripped apart, there's water at the bottom. So all of the siding, 150 mile an hour winds was pretty messed up. One thing to note too, this has 172 pages. There's 2 photos per page. So one thing I've identified with these contractors that were sending me data to turn around estimates for them is they just are horrible at getting me the photos. There's no rule that says you're going to have too many photos. I think you think it's complicated because you have to store these photos. They're big, they're heavy. You can't email them really to an adjuster. It's like, if you notice that State Farm, it's like they can't even get on the internet where they are. You know, they're like in this dark room or something that's like walled off with concrete. Like they're like, oh, we can't click on that. You know, we can't click on anything you send us. So you try to send them like, you know, the Dropbox link or Google Drive or something or Google Photo, and they can't click on it. They're walled off from society. So look what I've done though. I put these in JPEG images into the Xactimate estimate. And when it's exported into a PDF report, it's tiny. It's not a big file, like you can email it anywhere. So here's 172 pages, 2 images per page. We're at, 300 and something photos in here, easily sending it in an email. So I'm always going to want to take and put JPEG photos, because Xactimate has to have JPEG. So watch that HEIC version that your iPhones have. You can switch that. I use a camera. I use a Canon T6i Rebel. It's the same camera I've been using for 5-6 years. It's still awesome, but it's bulky. One of the reasons why I use it, and when I show up with adjusters, you notice how adjusters are kind of high tech, some of them, and they have like this little digital camera that's around their neck, and they've got, like little laser pointers and, little, maybe some cougar paws that they throw on, and they latch themselves to the ridge, for safety measures. And I had this guy had like a telescopic desk, and it came up in the living room, and he like, he's got his Xactimate, it's like, damn, that's pretty impressive. The husband and wife team had a van with a built-in desk in the back of it, The wife was back there knocking out the estimate, and the adjuster runs around the house, big hurry, missing everything. But what I like to do is kind of go with the flow. So they use Xactimate, I use Xactimate. They use EagleView, I use EagleView. They use ITEL, I use ITEL. I don't want to work against them. If they use Symbility, no comment. I'm not using Symbility. No, but when I show up, I want to have, so that camera that I was talking about, the T6i, it's real big and bulky. And so I come with the biggest tool belt that I found. Like, I couldn't find anything bigger. Big tool belt, like all the attachments and pockets, and just real expensive tool belt, real big thing. And I got everything in it, just the laser measures, everything, moisture meters, thermal, whatever you can add to your collection, the better. It's all about mine's bigger than yours is. Mine's better than yours is, Mr. Adjuster. Like we're children again, you know what I mean? Like my toy's bigger than you, better than yours. But it's like, I'm not gonna go there and act like cocky or anything like. It's the opposite. I'm real humble, just gonna stay out of your way. I'm just the contractor that's hired to perform all repairs by you, right? And I'm just here to find out what you want me to do. And the only reason why I have this camera is I need to take photos of what you're gonna have me do, But I think you understand what that does, Like, you show up, you know what you're doing. Like I am like an assassin. You know what I mean? That parachuted into the backyard. That's what I have. I have my drone cases, and camera bags and stuff. But by the way, it's even more effective when you do this for your homeowner or your business owner at the inspection when there is no adjuster. That's how I'm showing up. And if it's a commercial job, hard hat, safety vest, the whole thing. Like I use a mini mag light, flashlight, to inspect every room, closet, and hallway, the ceilings, and I always find a water spot, man. It's ridiculous. If there's a dishwasher on the first floor that leaked, you don't need to do every room, closet. I think you know what I'm talking about. But so I use the mini mag light. This is my flashlight of choice. But I also have the big mag light that I put in the tool belt, or in the tool belt. So I show up with just looking crazy. I'm telling you, that's what you want to do. It's hard to set yourself apart from the competition. This is a surefire way of doing just that. Like, they see that you're diligent. So I'm inspecting every room, closet, and hallway, every inch of everything, taking photographs of everything, flying my drone, and also getting up in the attic, doing that. So listen, so my inspections are a couple hours long at least, and my photos, even on a smaller job, is at least 200-300 photos. How serious do you want to get at your trade craft, right? How far are you willing to go? But I mean, if you go through the trouble on the front end of going through these types of efforts, then you will cut them off at the pass. You will bury them with it, the insurance company. You can cut them off at the pass if you're more prepared on the front end. Like no adjuster is going to write an estimate like mine. They're not going to have an inspection like mine. They're not going to take as long as on their inspection. They're not going to have as many photos as mine. It's not going to be as detailed as mine. I want to be best. I want to be the first, right? So, all right, we have, going through this quickly, we're going to break for lunch here in a couple minutes. So I've got the full drone stuff. I don't usually do this, but I did it on this one. I wanted to show what it actually looked like, the surrounding areas. Get into it. I wanted to show them to see what 150 mile an hour wind damage looks like, right? But I don't usually do it in the sense that, if you say, well, look, we had wind damage, everybody on our street got a new roof. That's usually not going to be the argument that actually works. You know what I mean? But this one, I wanted to show them the extent of the wind damage. I'm just going to go faster, but I did want you to see this. So that, we just need a little bit of repair there, guys, right? No big deal. We'll just patch that up, We had water coming in, That's what I was telling you. All the siding had to be replaced. We are going to break, but before I break, I want to tell you, when we come back, I'll show you how I dealt with this, right? Like the estimate that I wrote for it and what happened. And I think you'll learn a lot through that process. But essentially, I wanted to use this photo report to trigger the second adjuster coming out. That doesn't always work. The other one that I'm going to show you did work. This one didn't. Meaning USAA still said, send us an estimate. And I had to send them an estimate. But that triggered the adjuster appointment. The adjuster came out, the new one, he was from Louisiana. And he was like, the first thing he said was, do you have an estimate? And so he hadn't seen the estimate that I sent in. So I just say that because sometimes they'll make you send them the estimate. You might have to send that into the inside, but the adjuster never gets it anyway. Just go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. Whatever you have to do to get the new adjuster to come out. But the new adjuster came out, and I'm right away my main objective is to get them to approve the replacement of the siding, right? So I'm, telling him, showing him the siding and showing him why it has to be replaced. But when he gets there, the first thing he asked me, like I said, was, do you have your estimate? And I always respond this way. I always say, well, look, and I said it earlier, I have sort of the structure of one started and put into place that I can certainly share with you if you need me to. But really, I was the contractor that was hired to perform all repairs that are prescribed by you. So that's what I'm doing here. I can see that the current prescription is not going to, we can't make the repairs to the siding like it calls for. It has to be replaced. And so that's why I'm waiting for you to get here and we'll make this determination. But whenever I say that about the Xactimate, I say to him, and I understand that you use Xactimate. He goes, yeah, can you send me the ESX file? Like, that's one thing I want you to go to lunch on here. Can you send me the ESX file? Like, if you bring that up, that's the question I wanted him to ask was, can you send me the ESX file? I want them to ask me that question. I don't even want to offer it. I want them to ask me for it. Remember the data file, the Xactimate data file. Those 27 different estimates that I wrote for you, remember, those are data files. So you can plug them in and then change my stuff, right? So he wants the ESX file. What is he asking me to do? He's asking me to go do his job for him, okay? Now, not all adjusters are going to be able to do this. So again, State Farm is the rare one. Like, it's hard to get them to accept your ESX file because they're walled off from the rest of the world. They can't even do that. So, but that's the adjuster's asking me to give him my data file, my Xactimate, not in PDF, but in data, so that he can take it and plug it in, take off my letterhead and put his letterhead on and do his job for him. And you know what? That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. Like, I want him to ask me that. I want to do that work for the adjuster for many different reasons, but I really do. I want to take the photos for him. I want to do the sketch for him. I want to do I don't care if it takes 2 weeks. I want to do that for the adjuster. If they would like for me to do their work for them, I'll do it gladly and happily, So listen, when we come back, I'm going to talk about where we went from there, and you're going to see that ESX data stuff come to life in this particular estimate, along with a number of other things. And then just after lunch, try not to eat too much dessert because we really get mind-blowing. It's like a fire hose coming at you all day long, But I'm going to do, provide even more value in the afternoon hours. So don't eat too much dessert. We're gonna head out, I believe, to this is where my sister, there's a different room, so give me a second here, let me find out where that is. does include Friday, right? Does the grind include Friday, ladies and gentlemen? Like, oh my goodness. Does the grind include Friday? Oh, man. My life that I have. What's up, Laurel, Maryland? Can I hear something from you? What's up? Yeah! I love it. I love it. Thank you guys so much for coming, man. I just want to show everybody else how sharp you guys look. Jeez, look at them. They're awesome. Here we go again. Another one. You should join us.